Today's episode is with one of the most quietly lethal operators in D2C. Flux Footwear has gone from a side hustle idea to one of the fastest growing consumer brands in the country, scaling from 3 million in 2022 to 14 million in 2023 to 46 million in 2024, and now totaling over $100 million cumulatively in lifetime revenue and 8 figures in profit. All with zero outside capital and a team that grew from 0 to 20 people in just the last 20 months. Here's the kicker. Isaac still signs every check, tests every offer, and personally understands the mechanics of media buying deeper than most agencies. In this conversation, Isaac breaks down why founders must understand paid media themselves before outsourcing, the myth of the one switch, why no media buyer can save you if your product, market, or creative engine is misaligned, how curiosity, not agencies, solves stagnation for $5 million to $10 million brands, the shift from bid strategy tinkering to creative volume plus messaging architecture, and how Flux's Cashback promo generated 6 figures in incremental profit and completely changed the Black Friday Cyber Monday strategy. We also talk about why outside capital can actually make your business worse by masking your true TAM, and the harsh realities of category ceilings and why some founders refuse to accept theirs. Welcome to In the Money, an exploration of whether you can still make money in D2C and CPG. We talk to some of the most interesting $5 million to $50 million founders, operators, investors, and acquirers to ultimately answer the question, is D2C and CPG still a good business? Hope you'll enjoy the show. Isaac, we're going to start with an absolute banger of a question. This may be my best opening question of all of this year's podcast recording. One of the best debates in consumer and D2C is market versus marketing. You're an 8-figure brand. You use a performance marketer, outsourced, who's one of the top performance marketers in the world. We're not going to mention him specifically, but suffice it to say, he's a D2C Twitter celebrity. Mm-hmm. You were also trained as a media buyer yourself. You worked at CTC, a Common Thread Collective, which is a top agency in itself. How do you and how should brands think about performance marketing and who to use in-house, outsourced? That's a huge question, but I'm going to leave it on your desk.
Yeah. Definitely a big question. Might be a one-question podcast here, but yeah. So, like you mentioned, came from CTC. I owned an Etsy brand. That was kind of my first dip into entrepreneurship. Really wanted to have this brand building opportunity. As we know, marketplace brands are very different than kind of your e-com meta advertising brand. So went started through admissions, took all the courses, watched every single video I could, and willed my way into getting a position at CTC right in the heart of COVID, actually right before the iOS, kind of debacle, the update. So really had a pretty impressive training ground there. And again, so many of the buyers I worked with are now heads of growth and even founders themselves. So really, really great training ground, and really, just set me up, I think, in terms of like how to correctly think about media buying. I think back then it was all about revenue. I was starting Flux as I was learning media buying, working at CTC. So, kind of the side hustle thing, and all these other brand agencies were talking about, well, we'll scale your revenue. And I was like, well, how does that equate to profits? I don't know. I just have this mindset always of, you don't have a company or a business unless you have $1 in your bank account. And what flows to the bottom line is your profit. And, revenue's great, but if that doesn't equate to anything, you don't have a business. So CTC has always been driven in that mindset of like, how do you create profitable growth? And I think Taylor Holiday talked a lot about, while I was there, is this idea of building companies' products that have an industry tailwind. And for the first time, I think a lot of us listening to the pod, if you're a brand owner or work for a smaller e-com brand, mid-sized brand, is that, there's been a lot of headwinds, as that doesn't come to a surprise. I know the nine-figure and above brands, we're seeing them win quite a bit. And everyone else is, yeah, it's kind of a pretty difficult slog, and we're not immune to it either. Super high tariff rates. Um, but anyways, as we were scaling a couple years ago, yeah, there was this tailwind. Um, and it just literally anything we could do worked. It felt like, I mean, hit rate, we talk about that in creative world, and yeah, it was like literally 7 out of every 10 concepts were considered our hit rate. And it was incredible. And you know, fast forward to today, and it's, I have to coach up my creative team because they think they're terrible at their jobs. And I'm like, no, it just, there's just this industry win. The consumer is, it just, yeah, it's really difficult. Um, and it isn't not because they're talented. Yeah, it's just this idea of like really having a product that is just having their, time and moment. I just was reading a blog about cold plunging. Like, where's that? Is anyone talking about that a year, 2 years ago? I mean, you could not hear about a friend bragging about it or someone trying it even. And I mean, yeah, I haven't even thought about it or heard anyone talk about that, right? So, like, I just think that's a great example of how, I think thinking about media buying, in terms of, yeah, wind at your back, profitable growth, and then how critical and crucial it is yourself to understand media buying. Um, I genuinely don't know if Flux would be here if I didn't myself understand and learn. As you mentioned, yes, we have one of the top media buyers in the world. Been in it, longer than almost anyone, a true OG. And um, he's taking care of it now, but for the first 3 years, it was me. And frankly, you definitely get what you pay for. And yeah, agencies, individual media buyers, they're not cheap, and but they're critical and essential, especially in a D2C world. And I think that's something that's really important to, I think, first internally in-house. Um, as well as think about not just this individual person, or agency, but this holistic system of product market fit, messaging, offer, creative, UGC, and like sourcing creators. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. So again, when it was really important, the person pressing buttons, especially when I was starting out. And, I even think this idea of bid strategies, manual bidding versus lowest costs, cost caps, lowest costs, and how, yes, that's still really important. But now with Meta automating everything and it becoming more and more of a black box, it's just becoming, I think, less crucial of this, I think, old understanding of media buying. And our media buyer, I mean, he talks about it a lot anymore. It's like he spends over half his time with creative strategy. It's not even thinking through what is the strategy within the account. It's what are the different, you know, messaging and personas and analyzing the creative. And I agree. I mean, that's what I have really, spent my time on now, is like creating the team internally to be able to increase creative volume as well. I think that's a really big portion. So kind of went a couple different directions here. So I'll try and kind of bring it back in the sense of like, I worked in an agency, had the skills, and I think, yes, we're outsourcing it, but like, you need to have, in my belief of a startup, ecom brand, is I think this is a very important thing to in-house. Or yeah, I just think that's extremely difficult to have to go pay 5 to 10K retainer a month just starting out without any knowledge of if they're good or not. First of all, versus like, you can save that cost, really have this deep understanding that then impacts your product decisions, your org structure, new innovations in your brand, of like what's working, what isn't working, versus someone else kind of relaying that information, was just, yeah, super impactful and monumental for the growth. And of course now, like, just either size and scale makes sense to outsource that. But I mean, I'm on every call, I'm iterating creatives. Um, so I've also, been kind of told this from other mentors, of the things that are absolutely crucial for your business, you should in-house, you should own to some or whatever degree, but to a significant degree, I'd say. And for us, you know, trying to think about, I mean, we easily spend 8 figures on marketing alone, and I'm just gonna have not a not a minority, or sorry, I'm not a majority understanding of that. Just seems really difficult to find sustainable scale. Um, but then again, kind of on that other side is, yes, there should be a lot of understanding, but where the market winds blow can also dictate your success. Again, I myself, as you said, come from CTC, one of the most well-respected agencies, in the industry, working with literally a top 1% media buyer. And frankly, we're still struggling. It is still a slog each and every day. Um, and yeah, so while that's still really critical and important to have that understanding, this idea of what market and trends um, are hitting is also really important to just also reset and level set expectations, right? Like, I think we've heard a lot, just ending flat is a win this year. And that, how sexy is that to tell your team at the beginning of the year, we're going to do nothing, or, all this work is going to result in the exact same growth trajectory that we did last year. That's not very fun. Um, but that's just the reality sometimes. And I think, man, it just been a weird, crazy up and down 5 years. There's been a lot of winners, but some losers. There's a footwear brand that just, because of tariffs, have gone out of business. And I'd much rather be telling my team, "Hey, we're going to end up flat," than we're going out of business. And I don't think that that's really talked much about as the options. It's, well, why aren't we growing more? Well, we should be thankful that we're still in business in some environments. So.
If you think selling to your domestic market is good, wait till you see what happens when you truly go global. That's where Passport comes in. Passport is a full-stack global commerce partner built for ambitious brands that want real international scale without the headaches. They can help you launch and ship in-country in key markets such as Canada, UK, EU, and Australia. Or they can help you ship cross-border. With Passport, you get smooth international shipping to over 180 markets, fast, DDP ready, with branded tracking, high-touch customer support, and top-tier delivery success. Your compliance, taxes, duties, and customs handled end-to-end. No surprises at checkout or customs, just clean cross-border expansion. They'll even handle your duty drawback claims. And you get localization and storefront adaptation, local currency, shipping rates, payment methods, and tailored checkout experiences so your brand feels local no matter where you ship. Passport works with most US and UK based 3PLs and with top brands like Ridge, Hexclad, OneSkin, Dolls Kill, and many more that have already turned Passport into their growth engine for global sales. So if you're thinking global, if you want to scale into new markets, unlock demand outside your home country, and do it the right way, go check out passportglobal.com. Let's unpack. There's a lot going on there. Here's a question. Let's say a brand that's a little bit small, quite a bit smaller than yours, and maybe let's call it a $5 to $10 million brand. So it's still nascent. It doesn't have the importantly, it doesn't have the operating leverage that you do at your scale to make G&A investments. And they're flat, which may be winning, but like feels less winning at 5 to 10 than it does at mid 8 figures.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
And should they, like you, and they're not a trained media buyer, let's say, should they upskill and do admission, insert an ad for Taylor here? Yeah. Should they change, maybe let's say they're at an agency, should they go more premium and try to find a top 1% media buyer? Should they give a young whippersnapper who's maybe less experienced but willing to take more creative risk? How should they break through the stagnation?
Man, you're going banger on your questions. That's a really, really good question. Where I would start is developing an insatious curiosity of what is wrong, what is happening. So, for example, for us, last year we were using cost caps, manual bidding, and that switch to lowest cost unlocked. Now, it wasn't, it didn't result in 50% year-over-year growth, but that was holding us back. We were circling the same customers. That allowed us to start penetrating a new audience. So for us, right, like that resulted in a change of our media buyer, a new strategy. So again, for us, like that was this. I mean, and this was 9, 10 months of me just, was it, was this decline because of a bad Reddit thread? Was it a bad review? Was it a color issue? Was it what was this? What was the core root issue? And
And how did you identify that cost caps was, or that was the issue?
yeah, how did we? It was, we just were starting to see an increase of CPM. Um, just again, having an intimate knowledge, it felt like we continued just to circle around the same people. This debate was kind of starting to come up of lowest cost versus cost caps, and this idea of like, how do you reach a net new audience at a certain scale with a certain amount of spend? So again, like, yeah, there was kind of already that debate going on, and then just kind of putting all the pieces together of, man, this just continues to feel like, looking at the data, we're just circling around the same people. And we didn't know. Like we kind of took a bet, and we did a incrementality test with House. Shout out House, love you guys. And that was the right bet. And then we kind of went all in, and then kind of shifted the strategy on that. But I, I think that's a really interesting question too, because again, I don't think the individual, or a individual, the media buyer, can transform the account. Like I think it can be a variety of aspects, a variety of issues. And again,
Can we
it's like
just
even,
say that again for emphasis? That because I think so many founders probably do expect that I'm just one switch away.
yep. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I was the guy. I was at the agency that people were coming to me looking for the problem and the solutions. That's why I say I'm every agency's favorite client, because like, I'm very realistic in that, yeah, you're not my savior. And yeah, yes, we're all over the place, but kind of tying that back in, it come, maybe you're just have a massive headwind of the consumer. I mean, for us, like, the really scary possibility is we might have reached our niche potential, in the sense of like an attractive barefoot market. Like, we're trying to break into that on Hoka mass market aesthetic. Like, is the industry ready for that? We saw a massive shift, 15 years ago, with the Vibrams barefoot shoes. Like, it was massive, and then they went completely away, right? Um, but maybe we are at the absolute cap, and we can grow 5 or 10% year over year. Like, yeah, that just might be the reality too, and that's a hard reality. But again, it very, very rarely is this one change. Again, the lowest cost was a really important shift, but we also had to test and try different creative methods. I mean, I'm now challenging my team. Like, we don't have a creative strategist in our team. Our graphic designers and video editors, from A to Z, they pick like the UGC creator, the brief, the video editor brief, to final asset. Like, they're ideating. So that's been a massive shift of volume output. So yes, there are big decisions, but I think an individual can help lead you in the right direction. And maybe you're feeling really good about your media buyer and how and what they're thinking through. But if they're not, you know I think there are some best practices and things that are constantly changing. So I think being involved in kind of the e-com space and hearing and seeing what's working. I listen to the operators podcast a lot, wow, marketing operators podcast, and just like other founder friends, and like if what they're seeing, hearing is working, that your media buyer agencies talking through. Yeah, like you can't just move on from them and expect someone else to save you. But yeah, they can be very impactful. It is getting the right people and strategy for sure.
Yeah. But it sounds like for that situation, the 5 to 10 million haven't reached scale to benefit from the operating leverage to have kind of material profitability. It's really the founder taking accountability with deep curiosity to solve the
That's a
problem.
great way to put it. Yeah, yeah. I didn't specific. Yes, it's on you. Like that's the biggest thing. It's like very. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna find someone that's gonna find the problem. They'll help you in navigating those different paths. But yeah, that's kind of the calling and weight of a founder CEO.
Why do we love numeral? Well, here's the good, the bad, the ugly. The good is that over 2,000 e-commerce store owners just like you use them for sales tax compliance, including brands like Graza, Ridge, Gruns, and 8 Sleep. The bad is that none of us got into this to spend a ton of time on sales tax and admin, which is why Numeral is able to help you in 5 minutes or less get full coverage, deal with registrations, ongoing filings, and compliance. It just all happens in the background. And the ugly is that not a lot of store owners know that sales tax is actually personally guaranteed. Said another way, that the states could end up coming after you personally if you're not on top of it. Even being a modest $5 million store owner, you could have Nexus in 20 to 30 states. Again, Numeral helps you stay compliant, and they even guarantee their work. That's why we love them. Go and check them out at numeralhq.com. Isaac, you're incredibly dialed. You had I'm not sure if you're still running it, but you had a very interesting campaign promo over BFCM. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, super, super proud of this. I look like a genius. I could be on here, sharing not so good. We probably would have mentioned it. But so Memorial Day, we tested this out. We use Cashback. So if you're not familiar, it's with Fondue, PostScript through that platform. And basically it allows you to offer a cashback Visa gift card or a higher percent boost of a gift card to in-store credit. So essentially, you're able to offer a bigger discount number percentage. But then not everyone actually mails in the rebates. Not everyone redeems the cashback. So for us, we in Memorial Day, we were able to present a 40% off or 40% cashback, but we had 15%. It was equivalent of 15% off, even though we were able to put a 40% on our marketing. This year we went and it was huge. It blew our expectations away. I think we did like 800 some $1,000 on that Memorial Day weekend. We were projecting like 300 to 400,000. So I took a big gamble and we went all in on our Black Friday Cyber Monday. We did 50% cash back, 60% in-store credits. No, we did have a 30% site wide as a backup if Cyber Monday or Black Friday didn't work for us, but it killed. It basically produced an additional $200,000 in profit for us with the redemption rate. It was an equivalent of 20% off, because was it 62% of people either redeemed the Visa gift card or the in-store credit. So 40% of people paid full price and ended up not redeeming. So we did not see a significant decrease in conversion rate. That was one thing I was very concerned with. So essentially we were able to, again, to throw 50% on our ads with, instead of, in theory it would have been only 20% that we would have been marketing, as well as the idea of with a direct percent off, you lose that margin no matter what, versus if the person is going to redeem it. So that was massive for us, especially hopefully making up some of the margin through tariffs that we are getting hit with. So that was an enormous win. Very, very encouraging to see that. And selfishly, I hope some listeners start acting on cashback because I really think that there's a momentum of if a consumer starts to see this more and more, they're going to be more familiar with it, how it works, start utilizing it, versus not kind of understanding it. That's the downside. It's a newer kind of offer, but yeah, I think this really proved and solidified this being a pretty big option in our tool belt, especially with promos that don't erode margin.
We record podcasts a few weeks out. So, Isaac, basically, you sent me a challenge to insert the fondue slash postscript ad here in the next couple of weeks. But walk us through a little bit of the numbers again, because I'm not sure that I know it as intuitively. So, you got the 50% figure on, but it only costs you, let's say, 20% because there's some drop off rate. But maybe you can give us an illustrative example.
Yeah, that's pretty right. So again, how you market it is 50% back. That's really the best practice is marketing it 50% back. So I mean that's a big number. Most time consumers are gonna at least you get that CTR boost,
So
right?
someone buys $100, let's just for an easy number,
Yes.
someone buys $100 shoe, they say 50% off, but they're still paying $100 at checkout.
Yes, exactly. Yes, they pay $100. Then they get an email right away, and then they can select either. So, for example, it'd be a $50 Visa gift card that they can use just like cash, or 60%. So they'd get a $60 Flux gift card to use on any of our products. Now, the catch is that our return window is 30 days. So they can't redeem that until 30 days, or else they could return the shoes and then just get a $50 gift card for free. So for us, they can redeem the credit within 30 days. Now, again, things get lost in our inbox all the time. So consumers are busy. They don't select it oftentimes. And that's where that cost savings comes from is sure one customer is getting 50 bucks, which, we're really not making a whole lot on that, but three customers didn't redeem it. And then they just paid $100 full retail. So it'd be like not even offering a sale.
And is the catch here that because they don't have the instant gratification, they forget of redeeming the
I
gift card?
Yeah, and I think busyness, I think it also comes back to I know the fondue team talks a lot about of like a need. Again, we all talk about like the opening, give me an email, get 10% off. Like there are tons of people that would buy without actually needing that 10%, but because it's there. So I think again, the people that really want that redemption credit, they're going to make sure that they do it. Other people, it might just not be that big of a deal. And again, there is some hesitation of man, it feels like you're kind of cheating the consumer. I think if your product does what it's supposed to do and it provides them a great experience, like they're not going to miss out on that. Again, there is additional customer service for sure. I mean, we've been running this for 18 months. Again, pretty predominant eight-figure brand. I think we have not a luxury branding, but a premium brand position, and there has not been backlash whatsoever. So, yeah, there's definitely valid hesitations, but we've seen again people wanting that larger amount because the reality is we can't offer that much amount off without the cash back. So it's kind of just giving the person what they want if they're going to make sure they get it or it's not that big a deal to them.
Are you going to be introducing still the regular, percentage off as a part of your 26 promo calendar, or is this only going to be cashback from now?
No, like tomorrow we have a, year-end 30% off sale for sure. Again, that's the big thing is it's just a tool. It's just a tool in your promotion tool belt. I think there's time and place for both of them. I just felt like 30% wasn't going to be able to make a big enough splash. I was kind of right. Most footwear brands in our space, I saw a lot of them do 30% off. And we were able to throw a 50 on there. So that was kind of the call I made there. And yeah, I think it's kind of dependent. I'm leaning more heavily on the cash back because I can just put big numbers up consistently versus 30% versus 50. There's still more to test, but we've done a lot of testing and we see it win out each time.
In pre-recording, you were sharing a hot take that outside capital could potentially be bad for business. We'll talk more about that.
We get asked this all the time. If you had $1 million, how would it help? If you had outside growth capital, how would it help? And we've frankly had a lot of investors come to us with interest. And as I said at the very beginning, this idea of profitable growth, profit driven versus revenue driven, we're completely bootstrapped. We did have a SBA loan at the very beginning of the business. Due to our growth, we were able to pay that off extremely quickly. But that's really the only debt that we ever had. And again, I've kind of gamified this out a little bit, where it's like we are Amazon D2C. Wholesale retail is for sure something that I think is really important. Specifically with that channel in the footwear space, it just takes a long time to build those relationships, build those order frequencies. And again, when you're an 8-figure, a couple $100,000 really doesn't move the needle in terms of the growth, in terms of the bottom line. And yeah, again, there are definitely stories of like massive retail growth in 6-12 months, but it most brands, it's a slow roll, especially in the footwear heavily competitive category, compete with Nike, Adidas, On, Hoka. It's gonna be a slow roll. So the idea would be, taking $1 million, investing in reps, retail, wholesale director, and just like massively building out the team to operate at scale. And I think that's difficult to determine. Is it actually profitable? Is it the right time also? Like if I'm having to invest all these time, energy, resources, maybe it just isn't the right time. If it's not easy, if it isn't easy to go get accounts, or easier if big box isn't coming to me, is now the right time to actually do it? Is there that demand versus you're like, I mean, I'm not trying to throw shade, but just we kind of saw that with Allbirds a little bit, where they went absolutely berserk in their marketing, and it kind of ends up they should maybe only be a $60 million brand instead of a $300 million revenuing brand. And I think that's what I can just kind of see it for years at mass, the actual TAM of the brand. And I think that's consumer. Again, I know that works with SaaS extremely well when there's kind of a zero-sum game, but when that isn't necessarily the case, I think that makes it extremely difficult to really determine where's that middle ground. Like you invest all this and you have to come around with profitability. I think we're kind of seeing that Uber now, like they're having to raise prices. That subsidy doesn't work for profitability. Now we're kind of experiencing that. And it makes it really difficult versus like black and white. This is what you need to make from a margin stance to make it like realistically work from profit versus, hey, you have this couple $100,000 that you can just throw at this program. And that doesn't work. We did this with influencer this year. We did throw a couple $100,000 and it didn't work out. I felt that hard, and I shut it down the moment I knew it didn't work. If I would just have outside capital that didn't really, wouldn't actually affect the fundamentals of the business, it might have been another 2-3 years that we continue to invest in that. So that's just my thought around. I'm like, man, I really struggle to think what an additional dollar that doesn't have a direct impact on the bottom line, and like really needing to feel that gut check if it's an incremental, like truly profitable dollar.
AI. Everyone's talking about it, and you're worried you're getting left behind. Meet RichPanel, an AI-first customer support platform that's built for one thing: making support faster, smarter, and cheaper for e-commerce brands. Something you can actually feel smarter about using. RichPanel combines a unified inbox across email, chat, and socials, a customizable self-service portal that customers actually use, and Sidekick AI, powered by GPT-4, which learns from your past tickets to suggest on-brand replies. Does it actually work? Well, with Rich Panel's guarantee, you get guaranteed 30% cost savings when you switch from Zendesk or Gorgeous, 30% automation to reduce your ticket volume, and a no-risk guarantee that if Rich Panel doesn't deliver those results in 60 days, you get a full refund. That's why top brands like Ridge Wallet, Jones Road Beauty, and Pella Cases are already using Rich Panel to save hundreds of thousands in support costs. Time to start letting AI work for you. Head to richpanel.com and start your free trial today. Real savings, real automation, real AI that actually works. It totally makes sense. And I think the other side of that is founders and investors in these, maybe Allbirds is the good counterexample, that they don't want to believe that the TAM is $60 million. So you're out in market getting to $300 million, but your revenue quality is just much poorer. And it's actually fairly bad revenue quality, it turns out. But that's a really hard thing to, if you set out building a 9 or 10 figure business, but the market only will give you $60 million of quality revenue, that's a really hard thing to stomach.
Yeah. Yes. And I know there's brands out there. I think an LTV of really high LTV consumable, think supplements, like I think that can work again, but that's a much closer economic setup to a SaaS company. And footwear just isn't that way. So yeah, I just really can't think of great examples that like massive outside capital has really helped to capture that and just settle that out. I mean, and it takes years. Again, we're just now experiencing that with Uber, I think. And that's been almost a decade. And I don't know. I think that's a really difficult thing. And to your point, yeah, it covers it like artificially increases the TAM, and founders don't necessarily like to believe that.
Isaac, as we head towards a wrap, maybe other than Cashback and Fondue, is there a tactic, channel, or piece of tech that's working especially well for you right now?
We recently just did this. We haven't done a ton of it, but I think this could be pretty valuable, is price testing. Again, with footwear, we're in a space that there isn't a whole lot. Like, what's a running shoe? Yeah, 130 to 160. I mean, On has a 180, but like there's a pretty decent range of what you expect to pay. And so yeah, we haven't done a ton of price testing around that. Again, there's a lot of other brands. One knows specifically Ridge. Sean's preached price testing a ton. Theirs is a little bit different, and he's mentioned that what's a wallet cost? Like you don't know that off the top of your head, and they've been able to increase it significantly from my understanding. And so with the whole tariff situation, we needed to understand we had to increase costs, but how much made sense? What were we going to see a diminishing return? And what was actually really interesting is that our top product, our runner, was 140. We did a price test on 145 and 150. And what was shocking to us was we found 145 increase in conversion rate and increase profit per visitor. That's an Intelligems metric. And yeah, that was really kind of the first time that we've ever done that. And again, for us, we just were like, no, like we really can't gamify this. A price is a price. Whatever our direct competitors are, we need to be at or slightly below, and so I think I would just challenge the misconception of, or maybe the belief that's like, no, this is what price our consumers are gonna buy at, and really, yeah, just test it, and get a stat sig, and continue to test it, I think. But for us, I mean, that was just drastic. There was another product that, frankly, if we were not able to increase the price, we were going to have to potentially discontinue it because just the margin profile didn't make sense. So I think that's, yeah, something I didn't really believe heavily in or really do. But I mean, that was just a drastic shift in terms of increasing conversion rates, as well as, increased profit. So that was something I'd recommend.
This has already been such a valuable chat. Just to add more, is there a single biggest win over the last 12 months, whether it's SKU or operational milestone, maybe a new hire, something else?
The cashback has been absolutely massive for us. I think operationally, yeah, I'll go into operationally. Again, I kind of pride myself on running a pretty lean team. We're under 10% of revenue for our OpEx, and that's kind of that threshold. Yeah, I'm really proud of like making sure I count every dollar. I still sign every check and pay every invoice, just to have that understanding of inflow and outflow of dollars. But given how difficult the year was, really took a second look and are there redundancies? Are there nice to have double checks? And like, where can we challenge our people to take on more capabilities? What are they interested in learning? How can we expand their capacities? And through doing that, again, it's difficult because we did have to unfortunately lay some people off. However, once we were able to kind of open that up and I've heard other founders and heads of growth and VPs talk about how they're just organizations move so slow because there's so many checks and balances versus you own the thing, go execute it, and I trust you. And developing that trust, I think, is really important and can be really difficult. But once that happens, man, I mean, we were at a point of like, how do we develop a 20 creative output a week goal? And now we have a 20 creative backlog in our Meta account. Like, we have just removed these different you know, creative strategists that had to give briefs. Oh my gosh, I cannot stand creative briefs. Like, why are you creating a brief on how to create the thing versus the person knowing what to create just to have them create it? I know all the creative strategists, graphic designers are gonna roast me, but that just streamlining that and getting really talented people that are able to like ideate and execute the idea that they have in their head has just been truly game changing for us in terms of cost savings and just speed and efficiency. We were just bogging everyone down. They were unhappy because they weren't sure what they were supposed to be doing because the role shouldn't be there. And then the video editors were waiting on briefs and not able to be creative and love what they do versus, yeah, go execute the thing. So that would be another thing I would challenge is thinking you've really leaned everything out, or what piece of software do you think you need but you really don't, or yeah, and just challenging people to do more with less is something I think that can be a really big win from a cost savings and bottom line, which we all care about, as well as just what the company actually should be operating best.
This has been one of the most valuable episodes of the year. Isaac, is there anything you're looking for from listeners, channel partners, collaborators, investors to accelerate Flux's next phase of growth?
Yeah, I'd say, again, from my background, pure D2C media buyer guy, anyone in wholesale, really like looking to learn and understand that more. It is truly a different business. And I think even industry wise, apparel, footwear, if you know of anyone or anyone that just has advised those types of brands or connections or um that would be extremely valuable because that's an area that I think is really important for us. And our next step is, footwear is a very, tactile, wearing it is important. And in person would be really valuable. So that like understanding that would be really helpful and something to gain some knowledge in would be
I've,
valuable for us.
I've got 2 names to send you, but
Awesome.
we'll share it offline. Isaac, thanks so much for coming on and can't wait for next time.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.